20-odd years ago, the senior leadership team at Macy's was approached by some young Turks, and they said, hey, we have an idea. We know people go into department stores, but at the end of the day, we think this new cable TV has something. We want to be able to sell stuff on TV. And the folks at Macy's said, no thanks. And so you know what happened. Those people went on to start QVC, which has now doubled sales year over year. Macy's is closing 70 stores this year and letting go of 10,000 staff members. Kodak, similar story, right? So in 1981, the head of research came to the CEO of Kodak and said, hey, digital photography, Sony just introduced something, we think there's something there. We actually hold some of the patents on it. And the CEO of Kodak said, well, how long do we have until this becomes mainstream? And the head of research said about 10 years, right? So you'd think over 10 years, Kodak would have done a lot to actually get there. And what ended up happening was because Kodak made all of their revenue from photo paper and chemicals, they actually did nothing. And we know where that led to for them. So next one, so raise your hand if you even know what Blockbuster is. Okay, good, because I was giving a talk like this on a college campus and no one knew what I was talking about. Little known fact, so in 2001, the CEO of a very small startup called Netflix, which I know we just talked about, came to the CEO of Blockbuster and said, hey, you guys have all these physical retail locations. We send DVDs through the mail. Let's work together. Let us do your fulfillment and we'll co-brand and work together. And Blockbuster said, no way, people will never stop coming to their corner video store to get movies. Because at the end of the day, they never want to get VHS tapes by mail. So today we know where Blockbuster is, and Netflix is now over 120 billion market cap. So Tower Records, same thing. In the late 90s and actually early 2000s, they started exploring streaming audio. And one of the guys who had actually left Napster, one of the first companies from there, came to Tower and said, hey, we think there could be something here. And Tower said, no way, people will never not want to come into a record store to flip through the records. No, thank you. So Radio Shack, similar story. So what you see up on here is an ad from Radio Shack, actually in the 80s and 90s. So if you look on this ad, there's about 20 things for sale on this ad for Radio Shack. Now, every single one of those is in your iPhone or your smartphone. Every single item on there. So this isn't just in technology, and this isn't just recently, right? So this in the 15th century, we had the Gutenberg press, which everyone was totally dismissive of, which led to the Protestant Reformation and completely changed the world as we know it. Now, when you look at these stories, you think, oh, well, this is all about technology, right? So it's technology, it's always disrupting everything, and if we really want to get ahead of the curve, if we want to think long term, we just have to focus on technology. But the reality is technology is only part of how we should be thinking about this. So in the world that I come from, which is a very small world called the futuring world, there's this idea of the official future, right? And I, in no way, shape, or form, are knocking technology, but what happens is we end up falling prey to thinking, well, the only way we should be thinking about tomorrow is through this official future, right? This official future that, at this point in time, in 2019, is all about technology. But we also know there's a lot more going on beneath the surface, right? It's not just technology that drives everything, because if it was just about technology, we would be living in the world of Star Trek already, and we're not. So we know there are massive dislocations happening, both in terms of our climate, in terms of geopolitics. So the picture on the left was only 2 years ago. It was just basically a sandbar in the South China Sea. Within 2 years, the Chinese government and military had built up one of the largest military naval bases and had a claim to over 2,000 square miles, right? So that's not just about technology. Same thing, Airbnb, right? So the folks from Airbnb at one point actually approached an unnamed hotel chain and said, we have an idea, and they said, no way. So this week, it was announced Airbnb now books more rooms every night than all the 5 top hotel chains combined. And so what happened, right? This official future, it was going to be just about technology. So Kodak, Blockbuster, Macy's. It wasn't just technology that disrupted them, that led them to the point of where they're at right now. There was something more. It was the ability, or rather the inability, for them to think about something outside of the official future, right? To think about the futures. Because if you think back about the prognostications and the futurists who have been talking about what is going to come for the past 40 years, most of it is still not here yet. And the reason why is there are other things afoot.